Welcome to the Blue Shoes Fitness Podcast, where we talk about strength training, nutrition, faith, family, and how all of those things work together for parents like you and me. My name is Coach Jay, and today I want to share about my biggest and most recent learning experience as a coach, and that has been running my online group training program called Strong Shepherds. And if you're a regular listener to my podcast, there is a good chance that this program would be a great fit for you in your training needs. But this episode is not just a sales pitch to convince you to join us, but rather, I'd love to give you some behind the scenes insights about what this endeavor has taught me, what it's taught my clients, and what you can learn from it as well. All right, let's start things off with our verse of the week. This is out of Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 7 through 9. It says, "But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it?" I love this passage, and I specifically love pointing out that this is one continuous passage, whereas a lot of the times you see the first two verses talking about the person who trusts in the Lord being like a tree. You see those two verses usually put together off on one section, and then sometimes in a totally different realm of things, you see that final verse 9, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. But it's important to see the contrast between these two, and that it's very clear of which one of these sorts of attributes and traits that you want and which ones are ones that you want to avoid. When it comes to the person being like a tree planted by the water, the person who trusts in the Lord, we see a couple of offensive and defensive aspects of this. First of all, we see that there is a lack of fear and a lack of worry. So it does not fear when heat comes. And then it says it has no worries in a year of drought. And not only is it a lack of or an absence of those things, but it's also a positive filling in those areas as well too. So not only is there no fear when heat comes, but the leaves are always green. There is life within the leaves. Not only is it a lack of worry in a year of drought, but also there is a positive outpouring. There's a bearing of fruit, and that looks like a lot of different things in the life of a believer. But I thought it was worth pointing that out because it's not just that the Christian life is a matter of foregoing certain things. It's a matter of taking up other blessings and other disciplines in the place of those negative things too. Uh, all of that to be said, we also need to make sure that we tie in that last verse of the heart is deceitful above all things. And this doesn't continue along with that tree analogy, but the very first verse of this is, "Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord and whose confidence is in him, in the Lord," rather than the trust and the confidence being in one's own heart, because just like we read, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. And so that is such an important message for today's day and age, and for every day and age, of course. But I can't speak from any other day and age than the one in which I'm living now and the one that you're living in. And so right now we see an increasing trend of trust in yourself, trust in your heart. In fact, in the last episode talking about unpopular opinions, I'm sorry, 2 episodes ago talking about unpopular opinions from the mindset edition, this was the number one thing that I tried to attack in that episode, was the idea of trusting in yourself and leaning into your own understanding. And the book of Proverbs specifically says, do not lean on your own understanding. And so I thought that this section here from Jeremiah was a good complement to all of that you can learn from and be encouraged by that as well. All right, today's topic, what we've learned in Strong Shepherds so far, and the we in that is very important. I originally had this as what I've learned in Strong Shepherds, but you probably don't care so much about what I've learned unless you are a coach of your own and in trying to build out some kind of an online group training program. So I wanted to make sure that I included what I've learned, but the bigger scope of this is what all of us who have been a part of this program have learned so far and what that looks like for you as well. So I have a hard time believing that anybody who is listening to this podcast episode is completely unfamiliar with Strong Shepherds. But the real short 10-second gist of this here is that back in October of last year, so this would have been about 7 months ago, if my math is right, we are currently on our 6th training block. We do 5-week training blocks, so it's not quite one a month. It's a little bit beyond that. But we started this in October, and this training program has been my first attempt at putting together a group training program where there is a communal aspect. We're all on the same page. And I'll get into this in a moment too, but not only on the same page from a training point of view, but also from a who we are and what our lifestyles kind of look like point of view too. And I'll talk about that here in a moment. Like I said, we are currently on our sixth training block. We're finishing it up this week. And the next training block is, if you're listening to this in real time, begins Monday, May 22nd. So that's going to be next Monday. And you can join anytime, but it's going to be a great idea if you are looking at joining to be able to catch us right at the beginning of all of it. So we're right on the same page right from the start. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that we have learned in Strong Shepherds so far. The number one thing that all of us have learned is that group training programs are an absolute blast. They are so much fun, both from a coach's point of view of running it and from everything that I've heard on the feedback from my group training clients, everything that they've shared, that they've also been having a real good time with the practical aspect of the actual program itself. As far as the app experience has been a real great user-friendly experience too, from the communal side of it, of being able to ask questions back and forth, all of that kind of stuff. All of that being said, it's been a great experience to be able to receive so much positive feedback from my group training clients. And I've also had a blast leading it from my side. And this is group training is something that I am, like I said, relatively new at orchestrating here, but it is something that I've seen a couple of specific benefits of it. So I am not somebody who has ever had a long-term training partner where you go to the gym and you have a buddy that meets up with you, that you're doing the same program or a similar program and you're doing that. I've never had that experience. But at least for the long term, I had that during college for a little bit, but for the long term, I've never had that, nor have I ever specifically looked for that either. It can be a nightmare trying to coordinate schedules with people who not only are available when you need them to be with your training program, but from a goals point of view, you need to find somebody who is going to be on the same or similar trajectory that you are. And it's really helpful if they are a similar strength level, similar experience level, all those kinds of things. And when you add all that up, especially as a parent where there's just chaos thrown in the middle of all of that anyway, from a scheduling point of view and a predictability point of view, it can be really difficult to do that. However, having a group training program like this is something that can be a really great way to be able to kind of merge the benefits of having some training partners where you have people that are on this journey along with you, but you still get to physically work out solo and you can just do your own thing at your own pace. And so that's something that I've heard some feedback on that, and something that I've experienced myself too, because I'm also doing all of these workouts along with everybody in Strong Shepherds. Another thing on this too is that the community in the group chat has been a great environment for growth and learning. And this is an environment where in the app itself, there's a group chat feature, and it's very much like a Facebook group where you can post, you can like things, you can react, you can do all sorts of things like that. And that's all good and fine. But the real meat and potatoes of this is that you can ask questions and you can answer questions. So it's helpful, of course, that you can ask questions and that I might be able to respond to that. But the real benefit of the communal side of it is that you're pulling from a whole pool of other people's experience and what they are good at, what they're knowledgeable of, what they have just gone through in their own lives. And so other people can answer questions as well too. And that is one of the big benefits of a group training program that you won't get by either working out by yourself exclusively, or even it can be a little bit different than working with a coach one-on-one too. So having this group environment, that's really been a neat aspect of all of this. The second thing that we've learned is finding the style of training program that fits your needs in your current season of life is crucial, both from an enjoyment point of view and from a actually making a realistic, tangible, measurable progress point of view. So to help understand this and illustrate this, there are, in general, big picture here, four-ish types of programs that are out there. You have your self-paced, pre-written programs. You have custom or one-on-one programs. Maybe you're working with a coach directly. Maybe you're working with a coach online. You have your DIY programs. And then finally, you have your group training programs. And this is something that I meant to touch on 2 episodes ago in the Mindset Edition, but ran out of time. And that is that no matter what kind of approach you have to your training, whether you're doing something that is self-paced, pre-written, you downloaded something off of a coach's website where it's a PDF or maybe a pre-written program in their app, and you just follow it at your own pace by yourself. No matter whether you're doing something like that, if it's a custom program, if it's a DIY program where you are just pulling from your own research, your own knowledge, and just putting it together yourself based off of your own goals, or if you are doing a group training program online, there is always going to be some kind of cost that is required to be able to get the results that you're looking for. And that cost might be measured in terms of time, it might be measured in terms of money, and it might be measured in terms of effort. And all of this put together reminds me of the term opportunity cost, where you are, by saying yes to one thing, you are inherently going to be saying no or not right now to all of the other things. And it's important at your season in life, whatever that looks like. And if you're listening to this, you might be a parent, whether you have a newborn or if you have kids that are either all grown up and out of the house or somewhere in between. There is going to be an opportunity cost to how you go about your training. And it's important to think about this in terms of what is your limiting factor with, let's think about those three: time, money, and effort. You can also think about effort in terms of expertise too, because that's another factor in all of this that kind of goes along with that, because you will have spent a lot of effort to get to any level of expertise. So, which one is your limiting factor? And maybe think about which one do you have the most of, as far as if it's not just superfluous and just all this extra stuff, maybe it's just the one that you have the most of in this current season of life. And rather than trying to save on all three of these things, of time and money and effort, all at the same time, that is just going to kind of send you in this cycle where you spend a little bit on one and then it starts to get uncomfortable. So then you pull back, and then you spend it on another area and then you pull back. So rather than that, it's worth figuring out which of these style of programs is worth it for you. And just to kind of demonstrate this, let's talk about a few aspects of each of these here. So, a self paced, pre written program. It's going to cost time because you're going to have to do it, but it's not going to cost any extra time from a putting it together point of view, which is nice. It's going to save on effort because you are not actually putting it together, but it will cost maybe a little bit of money from that point too. Uh, at the same time, it does cost effort from the execution side of having to adjust the program or having to figure out if it really does match your needs and your obstacles and all of the kinds of things that are going on in your life. From a custom coaching point of view, that one is probably going to cost the most money out of all of these, but it's probably going to save on the other two. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of effort on the heartache and headache side of it, of trying to figure out, oh, why isn't this working, or why is this working? And so on the time and effort side of it, a coach will likely save you loads in the way of those. And for a lot of people, custom coaching is absolutely worth the money because it saves on those other two. The DIY approach, this is one where it is going to cost time and effort and expertise, right? All in the same bucket there. It's going to cost all of those things. A lot of people do the DIY approach because it saves money, but it doesn't always save money, right? This is something where if you've ever done any kind of a DIY project at home, perhaps you can level with the idea that it doesn't always save money in the long run, because you might not have the expertise that you probably should have had before you chose to replace that part of your home on your own, or to tinker with something in your car under the hood, and because you watched a couple YouTube videos. So the DIY approach can be a valid option, but it's worth assessing the costs and the benefits and what you're saving as well too. And the group training program, and this isn't so much a call to say, hey, group training is the best, but for a lot of people, it can be a really viable option because it does cost a little of all three of those. It costs a little bit of money, it costs a little bit of time, and it costs a little bit of effort, but it also saves a little on all three of those as well. So you're not diving so far headfirst into any one of those where you're spending a ton of money on one thing, but then it you're doing it in the name of saving time and effort, or you're doing something where it takes lots and lots of time or lots and lots of effort, but you're trying to save on the other two. So group training can be a really great option for a lot of people because it's fairly low cost on all three of these things, and you're going to save a little bit on all of them too. And a big piece of this is that it's also going to increase you on the education side of it and on the expertise side, because a group coaching program is likely going to have some aspect, just like Strong Shepherds, where you can talk with your coach and you can ask questions and you can figure out what it is that's working, what it is that's not, and how to go about discerning the difference. And that goes a long way for the sustainability of being able to do it either on your own at some point if you want to, or just being able to understand some of the nuances of the program itself. All this being said, getting results will cost some amount of these three things, and it will likely cost some amount of time outside of your comfort zone, whether that's doing things that are mentally uncomfortable or physically uncomfortable. All of this is to say, this is like a little bit of a mini lesson within our big picture framework here, but getting results will always cost something, and it's a really helpful exercise to be able to look at what it is that you are willing to pay in that regard, and what it is that you are not willing to, what it is that you want to save on in terms of time, money, and effort. And so your program style, whichever approach you're taking, it's worth figuring out which one is going to be best for you. And that's something that we've all kind of learned in the group training style program is, hey, for all of us in this right now, this is a really great mix for everybody in it right now. That was your little freebie mini lesson that I threw in there for you. All right, next up, another thing that we've learned is that building out a program for a specific niche is totally the way to go, and by extension, finding a program that's specifically built for your needs is totally the way to go. This builds a little bit on the previous point here, but being able to do a program and join a program or build out a program if you're doing it yourself that is specifically for your needs is so helpful, because you will spend way less time and energy trying to constantly manipulate things. And this is something that I dealt with a lot in my early years of training, where I was very much wanting to save the money and wanted to and was willing to invest the time and effort. And so I spent the first few years of my own training always looking at online programs and adapting them to meet my own needs and my own goals and work around my own schedule and all those kinds of things, to the point where it hardly ever resembled the original program. And by extension, the important part is that it hardly ever gave me confidence that I was going to achieve the same program outcomes and results, because I had manipulated so many factors of it. And I was the person who was always on bodybuilding.com and Men's Health and all of those websites where it was looking at professional bodybuilders' workout routines, 6 day a week, push pull legs 2 times over, that kind of a split. You'd be in the gym for 2 hours at a time. And I would start with that because I wanted the results that these people clearly had gotten, and in my head, clearly had gotten by way of doing that kind of a program. And then I would water it down based off my schedule, based off the fact that I didn't want to work out 6 days a week. I wasn't able to work out 6 days a week based off of my equipment availability. All of those kinds of things. You get the picture, right? So it is worth finding something that is built for your lifestyle and your goals and your training needs. This is specifically why I work with parents, and not just parents with infants or young children. That's the stage that we're in, but parents who are working around a specific set of goals that they have that's related to some combination of wanting to look great, wanting to feel great, wanting to be able to move well, wanting to be able to age well, wanting to be able to be strong in their everyday lives. So from that side of it, and the obstacle side of it too, of making sure that all the challenges that they might be facing in their everyday lives, from a scheduling point of view, from an unpredictability point of view of their schedule, it's not just that they're busy, it's the fact that you can't always bank on having a full week of workouts, all those kinds of things put together. It's totally worth finding a program or building out your own program, or helping your coach to help you to build out a program that is going to meet your needs specifically. This sort of middle ground of having a framework that supports your needs and goals and challenges is going to be very helpful. And there's a degree of flexibility to be able to make adjustments where they're needed. And this is something that I try to help parents with, because we are in a stage of life, especially in the younger years, where we need that flexibility, but having total complete flexibility and freedom to the point where there is no structure, that just adds a whole nother mental load on you of going, okay, now I feel like I need to work really hard, not just on the program, but also to build out the program itself too. And this is why a lot of parents are in a position where they would rather outsource their actual workout programming. And you can't really outsource the effort of doing the workouts themselves. But if I can help you with one thing, that is, don't worry about trying to put together the perfect program for you. Let me do that and you can adjust it based off your needs. So, from a framework side of things, let me just share a little bit about what I've learned and what I've implemented through Strong Shepherd. So, on the structure, we have 3 workouts per week. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We have a 2-day alternating training split. And this is a huge benefit that it's certainly not something that I came up with, but it is something that I have since coming across years and years ago. I have almost exclusively used this for all of my one on one clients and group training programs in Strong Shepherds, and that is using a smaller alternating training split than the number of workout days that you're going to be using per week. So 3 workouts per week, we're using a 2-day alternating training split, meaning that we have 2 separate workouts that we're alternating on like an A, B, A pattern. And then the following week, it's going to be workout B and then A and then B again. So every 2 weeks, we do each workout 3 times, if that makes sense, rather than having 3 workout days per week and a 3-day split. Because at that point, if you miss one of those workouts, then that means that you have completely shifted your workout schedule to where you're missing an entire body part, entire muscle group, entire movement pattern in that week, and that it gets pushed off to the following week. And so that's something that, from a practicality framework and structure side of things, I think is very helpful. Also going to be beneficial for parents is our focus on strength and hypertrophy rather than really leaning into any one of those. And you certainly can, again, by way of being able to adjust the program. But we are focusing on both of those. So you're going to see some strength training based movements, some of your typical deadlifts, your squats, your bench presses, and those kinds of things that you might see in a powerlifting side of things. And a hypertrophy side of it too, where sometimes that is distinguished by the types of exercises or the variations that we're emphasizing. Sometimes it's a matter of even the rep ranges that we're using or the training volume, all those kinds of things. And on top of that, too, one of the other big framework pieces that I have put in place is specialized accessory movements that are added with parenting demands in mind. This is where if you were to look at any one of our Strong Shepherds workouts, you would see that the final 2 exercises of every workout are not listed as optional, but they are listed as, hey, these are some specialty exercises that are going to be more core based. They might be more flexibility or mobility based. They might be a little bit more coordination based as opposed to just how much weight can you lift for how many reps. And so that's going to be one of the specialized aspects of this for parents specifically. From the adjustment side of it, so we had our structure and framework, and now from a flexibility and adjustment side of it, the actual workout schedule itself from the days that you're working out. It's not a matter of, okay, you need to work out Monday through Friday and then take the weekend off. No matter who you are, no matter what your schedule looks like, I don't think it's very helpful. And so there are 3 workout days per week, and you can organize them on any 3 days of the week that you'd like. And I think that's a very helpful thing. Again, not just for my program, but if you're listening to this and you're scouring the internet to find a good program to be able to join, think about what your schedule looks like and if that program offers either what you're looking for or the flexibility that you would need to be able to adjust it. Again, the 2-day alternating training split, another big benefit of that. The actual length of the workouts is something that we've taken into consideration. The exercise order that starts with highest priority down to lowest priority. And not that there's always a huge gap between the highest priority and the lowest priority, but if you're only able to get through the first half of your workout, either because going into it, you only have 20 or 25 minutes that day, or if, and as happens in our house, if your child wakes up from a nap, for example, or calls home, sick at school or whatever that looks like for you, and you need to cut that workout short, well, you can be rest assured that you have already gotten the highest priority stuff out of the way first. There are lots of options within each exercise as far as the equipment availability that you have access to. There's lots of options within accessory exercises to be able to swap those in or out or lop them off altogether. All those kinds of things all add up to this idea that building out a program for a specific niche has been very helpful. And that's something that I really enjoy doing both on the completely custom side and on the group training side here as well. And we'll follow this up with something that I really wanted to add in here, because I think that this has been sobering for me. And whether you are a coach listening to this, or if you are a current client of Strong Shepherds, or someone who's just listening to the podcast, I think that this is something that is really important for me to share. And this is that popular phrase of "build it and they will come." That has not overwhelmingly been true. It has not overwhelmingly been the case, but that's totally okay. And it has added to this learning experience. That idea of "build it and they will come," where you build out a great program and you hit the publish button, and then you just expect that a bazillion people are going to want to join it right away. Um, I think that's a little bit. I don't know if it's untrue, but it's at least an incomplete thought. That there is a matter of there's lots of follow up that goes along with this too. I did have, in the initial months of opening up the program, I did have some higher hopes as far as the number of participants go. But this has led me to three follow up thoughts that I'm really leaning into right now. And I am excited to be able to share this with you again from a learning experience here. The very first thing is that I am very grateful for all of the current members of the group. And if you're listening to this as a member of Strong Shepherds, I am so grateful for you being a part of the program and for all the feedback that you've given as well. The second thing is that rather than assuming that there is something missing from the perspective of, of a future client, I want to take on that burden, and I want to be encouraged to keep building a better and better program with every new training cycle to make it just even more irresistible to anyone who comes across it. And that's something that I have learned in the world of social media big time, where if you have a post or a lot of posts that don't get as much engagement as you thought, perhaps there's something with the algorithm, but that's kind of a lazy approach if you just automatically resort to going, oh, it's something with the platform. Rather, you can always focus on it as a coach, or as anyone who's using social media for your business. You can always focus on using that feedback to go, what can I do better the next time? And then the third thing, that this is sort of part of why I wanted to put this episode together, is that this is also challenging me to share about Strong Shepherds more than what feels comfortable for me. And I am, if you've ever applied for one-on-one coaching, or if you've ever been through that process with me, I am not a salesperson by any means. I'm a coach, and I love fitness, and I love coaching, and I love helping people. And so uh, one of the things that has gotten me out of my comfort zone is by putting this out there, putting this program out there more and more and more, of saying, hey, come join this program. Hey, come join this program. And I don't think people get nearly as annoyed with that as I have in my head. And so one of the things that I wanted to do by way of this episode was to challenge myself to be able to share a little bit more about it as well. So the last thing that I'll share on this here is that feedback is everything. This is the last thing that I have written out for you that I've personally learned, and I'll share with you from a client perspective of what we've learned from Strong Shepherd so far. As a coach, I think it's important to not be married to your own ideas at the expense of being open to what your clients actually want. Again, just like with anything that you put out on social media, if you've had that experience where you put something out that you think is total gold and it tanks as far as engagement or participation goes, and you go, oh, well, and so I think that's a helpful thing to go, okay, I don't want to be so married to my own ideas that I'm not actually available to hearing what feedback my real clients are actually giving me, right? And so rather than these hypothetical, oh, here's how I think they'll respond, here's how I think that, all that kind of stuff, just ask real people, right? That feedback is so helpful. From a client perspective here, I think that one of the staple features in any solid training program is the ability to easily track and assess progress. And assessing progress it's a different kind of feedback, but I think from a client point of view that this is so helpful. One of the things that I've worked really hard to do is to make the Strong Shepherds app as user friendly and as relevant as possible. So it's not just a matter of user friendliness where, oh, this is super easy to be able to navigate and all of that. But going a little bit deeper on the relevant side, there are, through the app platform that I use, a ton of available features that you can use with it, including a whole nutrition side that I've never even touched. And that is on purpose because I want to only keep the details and features and all the kinds of helpful aspects of the program. I want to keep that as relevant as possible to your goals around getting stronger, growing your muscles, all those kinds of things. And so that's a big part of what I wanted to do through the program itself. So that's what I have for today's episode, and I was really excited to be able to share all this with you, and I hope that this was something that was helpful for you to be able to think back on and reflect on. I hope that this did give you some information about Strong Shepherds. If you do want to join us next week on Monday, that's when our new training block starts. I'll leave that with you there. But outside of that, I hope that this was worthwhile for you. And if you have any further questions or feedback for me, just like I got done talking about, you can absolutely send that over to me as well. If you do want to look at Strong Shepherds, you can see that in the show notes below. Outside of that, I'm Coach Jay. Thanks for hanging with me, and we'll see you next time.